right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to one more episode of the Ideas Project. For those of you I have not met before, I'm Dr. Sujaya Banerjee. I'm the CEO of Capstone People Consulting, and I'm also the founder of the LNOD community. So thank you for making time for this live podcast today. Of course, the recorded version will be available both on Spotify as well as the LNOD communities platform. We'll also release it on social media from time to time. I'm really excited about the guests that we have on the show today, the very renowned, respected, and much revered Dr. Aravind Chinchure. So first of all, Dr. Chinchure, thank you so much for agreeing to join us on this podcast today. It's indeed an honor to basically host you on this in this conversation. So welcome. And very excited to have this very timely conversation. So just for the audience to know, because most organizations are in the planning phase right now for 24-25, we wanted to basically host this podcast in either March or April, but Dr. Chinchure very kindly agreed to be able to do it earlier so that you can bring in the benefit of the insights that you perhaps get from the conversation here today and weave it into how it is that you're planning to perhaps drive change and manifest unprecedented growth to 24-25. So welcome, Dr. Chinchure, one more time. I'm going to call you Arvind because that's what I typically call you. So we'll stay with Arvind.
Yes,
so welcome. I think there is no doubt about the fact that these have been indeed unprecedented times. I think it has got us to redefine so many paradigms in our life, starting with, how work changed, how workplace changed, how we work together changed, how we consume entertainment change. So there's so much evidence of both business model innovation, whether by force or otherwise, cultural innovation that has basically manifested into perhaps more modern organizations. So that's definitely work in progress. But I think there is a very astounding realization that culture is indeed a key differentiator if you want to be able to really win in these times. And so it's not just strategy, and this is for those of you going off on offsites or conversations to be able to plan through 2024, 2025. The topic of our conversation here today, and of course, Arvind's helped us craft this, which is we've called this change, transformation, and unprecedented growth. And before we dive into the conversation, we're also passionate about this. Let me introduce Dr. Aravind Chinchure to all of you. He has obviously a very splendid CV, but I'm going to try my level best to keep this as pointed and as pertinent to this conversation as I can. Otherwise, we can spend a lot of time talking about this. Arvind is a CXO coach. He is a purpose-driven innovation and strategy leader with over 30 years of experience in R&D, innovation, business growth, entrepreneurship, startup investments, and M&A. He's the author of a book called The New Age Organization, and this was written post the pandemic, full of insights and his learnings and some of the research that he validated before the pandemic and after that to be able to kind of give us a perspective. He is obviously the recipient of many awards and accolades, exceptional leader of excellence, innovation excellence, and so on. But what I find most astounding and very admirable in his profile is the work that he's done to promote entrepreneurship, innovation, technology, intellectual property for over 100,000 students, professionals, and faculty members in India. And I think that is extremely commendable. And thank you for all the good work you do, Arvind. I'm going to come to the crux of the conversation in terms of we're talking about change, we're talking about transformation. It's not uncommon, given the fact that we're saying that we have experienced just come out of a decade of disruptions, a decade of change. It's very difficult to say that I can't see the change. It's just so apparent and palpably changing the way we live every day. I just spoke about the impact a few minutes ago, how we work, how we engage, the workplace itself, how we consume entertainment, the level of connectivity, and I dare say the human side of enterprise, which is so significantly emerged, particularly in the post-COVID era. But I think it's the upheavals of all upheavals that we experienced in 2020 and right through until 2022. We're all still experiencing the ramifications and the opportunities of this upheaval. And yet, you have a very significant group of people who returned on the back of the various COVID waves to be able to come back to the same organization, to the same office, physical office, to the same team, to the same boss, who were a little astounded to say it's business as usual. I can't see what changed so dramatically. Or worse still, when there have been groups of people saying, now we just go back to our comfort zones, which is we knew how to do things in a particular way pre-March 2020, just go back to doing things in the same manner. And I'm saying that while this may not be an expressed confusion, it most certainly is in the minds of many people, whether this whole business of change and the massive transformation, unprecedented stuff happening, whether all of this is a little bit of an exaggeration. So I'm just going to start by asking you, change, transformation, we'll come to the distinction between the two, but give me your reactions to what we're saying are unprecedented times, disruptive times, and so on. I think your perception on this would be so important. You wrote a book around this.
Yes. No, this is such an honor and privilege to be part of this live podcast. Dr. Sujaya, your work inspires me. So you said 100,000 students and faculty and professionals that are touched to evangelize innovation, entrepreneurship, intellectual property, and so on. And what LNOD platform is doing or is going to bring that change and transformation through collective intelligence and collective learning. So compliments to you starting this particular movement for all of us. Not
Thank you.
About this. So coming back to your question, what has changed? Has change really happened? Are we back to the state of normal? Fundamentally, when I look back, say 10 plus years, the first biggest disruption that industry and even nations saw was 2008 meltdown. That was massive, massive disruption. In fact, this was such a disruption that it took years and years for nations and companies to come back to the normal. The previous disruption, it used to take a couple of, say, a year or a couple of months or a year or a couple of years, but this was a massive, massive disruption. Then came pandemic. So we experienced and we managed to deal with the pandemic. Of course, it tried to bring some massive changes in the way we work and the way we live and so on. Now, today, if I look at what is that biggest change and unprecedented disruption that we are seeing is a new version of AI. I think in 2023, the launch of this ChatGPT by OpenAI has really brought a new kind of a discourse. Discourse about work, about life, about everything, even to an extent that what happens to the humanity and civilization and so on. Of course, whenever new technology, new disruption happens, there is always, we overestimate at the beginning and underestimate over a period of time. But as individuals, as organizations, we should know that this is going to be a big disruption that will impact all of us. Now, what does this mean? If you look at what Bill Gates said, AI, the new version of AI is similar to the invention of telephone and internet. Time will tell us, is it true? Will it really happen the way internet changed the way we work and the way we run our business? Or for that matter, telephone. What has been the consequence and the way things are happening? So Sam Altman, now he's trying to raise $7 trillion. Just a thought. Just imagine audacity of a person to raise $7 trillion to create a new chip industry, and that chips will really help accelerate the next generation of AI. And what is that next generation of AI we are talking about? We are talking about artificial general intelligence. And then imagine the world and what is going to, how this artificial general intelligence, because that's going to be more powerful than existing one, and it can even compete with the intelligence that humans have. So now this is the second. And why this is important, Sujaya, for all of us is, when we were growing up, we were talking about lakhpatis, we were talking about crorepati's. Slowly we shifted to $1 million, right? As we moved up. Then we got used to $1 billion and multi-billion dollars. In the last 10, 15 years, the $1 billion became a common word for us, just to say we have a $1 billion project. And now we are talking about $1 trillion. Just look at the way things are shaping and things are changing. And the last is last week. And just if I look at last Friday, NVIDIA, which makes the chip, for which it drives the this LLM and model new versions of AI, has reached $2 trillion. It's the fifth, possibly a corporate in the world to reach $2 trillion valuation. Unprecedented. Not even imagine an NVIDIA just few months or a year reaching $2 trillion of valuation. Just imagine what kind of things that is or will happen. Now, this is about technology disruption. But look at what's happening. We are right now going through two wars. Ukraine and Russia war entering into second year is something which is significant and has a tremendous impact on humanity. This is the first time Western nation realized the value of a food. Food was taken for granted. Now food security is a national security and energy security. And that's the paradigm shift that we're looking at. Now we have another war which is going on, and then look at all the disruptions and other things. Look at what is happening between China and US. That war continues. That will have a tremendous impact on all of us, and particularly for supply chain, where the companies will get their components. We have not figured out, even nations are not able to figure out how are we going to deal with the supply chain. So then comes the unprecedented thing for youth and demographics. Youngsters like Adit and Kaivalya, dropping out of Stanford at the age of 17, starting a company called Zepto, which is one of the fastest growing company or startup in India, and becoming youngest billionaires. This is the unprecedented thing, that is at the same time. What happens is we are in our own comfort zone and we don't take the cognizance of things. Now, fundamentally, to close this part is, my question is, are we prepared as individuals, as organizations? Are we thinking about this? Are we planning and have a strategy to win today and the future? Win the future. And that's what I see is the unprecedented thing that is happening. It will have an impact.
Right. Right. And I think you wrote about the opportunities of the new economy. So I'm going to pick on the last question that you're asking on how are you seeing organizations? And I have a view as well. I work with organizations in the space of change and workplace change and so on. And, but I want to get your views on this first, which is what, you just ended on the note of unprecedented sort of disruption that we're seeing all around. And what does this mean for individuals and what does that mean for organizations? And my question to you is, which effort are you not seeing people make in terms of being able to really, and I know there's the whole host on growth mindset and polarities thinking and the whole 9 yards, but I want to know from you, what is your experience on what is the journey that people are not making? And, and to what extent do you see, sort of, individuals deluding themselves, organizations deluding themselves, not dealing with the reality and the palpable opportunities of this change?
There are two parts to this question, Sujya. One is, what is that big shift in terms of opportunity that has happened, say, over a period of decades? And the second question is, as an individual, as an organization, where are we in terms of looking at those opportunities and leveraging and thriving on those opportunities? Let me share what is the big shift. There are two things that have changed. So the first change that I see is access. Fundamentally, if I have a big idea or whatever size of the idea that I have, I need three fundamental things. The first thing I need is access to technology. And look at today, it does not matter which technology we are talking about. Anyone can get an access to that technology, whether we are talking about AI, IoT, data, any or robotics or any cutting edge technology is available for us today, which is very, very empowering. The second is there is an access to, I call it talent or experts. We have, so you just try within our own network or network of networks, you can find expert in those areas that we need. That's the second part. So expertise is not a limited resource. Third, which is most important, is we need capital. Now there is access to capital. And these three are lethal. In terms of leveraging opportunity. So what it means is, what I need is, I need an idea which solves the real problem. Basically, I need to understand where is the big opportunity that exists, whether you are part of a company, whether you are a part of an individual. Now, what does this mean to us when I compare to, say, centuries? So if you take 100 years back, who could even imagine and think such big ideas and implement? Only kings and queens, rajas, maharajas. Nobody had that power, resources to execute such programs, such ideas. Then look 100 years back, who had that power? That power was with enterprises, large enterprises who had a lot of capital, natural resources, connect with the government and so on. And they could think and execute this thing. Now, the power that existed with kings and queens and enterprises is with us, with individuals. Just see the power that exists with us as an organization. The question is, whether to leverage that power is a decision, that the choice that we have to make. What choice to make? If I want to make a choice to leverage this, yes, the world is available.
But would you agree that we're wanting in terms of being able to make these choices with wisdom? Because what you're alluding to is the fact that all these resources are available. They're not just the prerogative. It's a more democratic society. This is now not just the prerogative of a few to be able to access this. So increasingly, this is becoming available to anyone who has a great idea or anyone who thinks this is a solution and anyone who's willing to make that choice, basically. right? I mean, I'm just saying that while it all sounds so exciting that it's all there, the truth is that we still don't have momentum for being able to utilize these opportunities. And I'm going to go there because we're talking about change and change management. So what do you think are the impediments? What's in the way of using these resources? You're saying talent's there, technology is there, opportunities there, funds are there. What's in the way of being able to actually adopt these choices?
Right. So let's look at this from an organizational perspective. So when I say organization, what makes organization? It's people, right? So, and predominantly in this era, whatever we call it, knowledge economy or whatever economy that we are in. So what is the core of any organization is people, or we call it human capital. Now, fundamental question that we need to ask is, are we truly leveraging that human capital that exists? So other way to ask this question is, as an organization, am I investing? Am I working to create value, or in that other way, what Adam Grant says, how do I unlock that hidden potential? All of us have this potential. There is an access, there's a power. But as an organization, am I doing something to unlock that genie or that potential that exists in almost every individual within the organization?
Right. Right.
And that's the way I see organization. If I look at quickly, my past experience of working within the companies, and today as an advisor or as a consultant, when I look at organization. So when I was working, every organization wants to have a talent which is of highest caliber, whichever technology, functional, behavioral. So they get into the organization, but the kind of work that talent is doing is not commensurate with the potential that exists. So I used to feel when I was working in a company, I'm a highly paid technician. I'm called a technologist. I'm a PhD. I have to discover, develop certain things. But when I started working, sometimes I ended up becoming a highly paid technician. So how do we convert, transform, or bring that change within the company that each individual can actually, ignite, unlock, and deliver that real potential? That's what I felt, and that's what I will share an example. How this happened. So
right. So I think I only want to come back here, and I want to let the audience know that Arvind Chinchure is full of stories. So we're going to try and leverage some of these stories from you. But I'm so tempted to come back on what it is that you really said. I think it definitely resonates very significantly. I do believe that we have not reinvented work. So we're very modern in many ways, but we've still not reinvented work. We've not cracked the code on that. And I think the general refrain is that someone's got to do the grunge work, that there is that grunge work to be done. And I think my big question is that, can we systematically have a plan on how it is that we're going to reduce that, automate things? You are in the new economy. I mean, find the solutions that you need to find so that you can basically at least sensitize people down the line on the fact that they can't just presume and take people for granted and expect that people are going to do a majority, or feel inspired to do a majority grunge job and come all excited to organizations every day to be able to basically do boring, repetitive, not very challenging, not utilizing of our potential kind of jobs every day. I'm going to start by just talking about the entry-level job itself, really the junior band itself. I mean, most organizations are struggling with retention of talent at that time. And I've been, an evangelist for reinvent the entry-level job. Just reinvent that. These are children of the knowledge era, the children of the information era. You can't be bringing them in and expecting them to do the jobs we did so many years ago at entry level. So there is a huge opportunity to use this potential that you're talking about, unleash the magic of the potential inside the organization. These times have changed, opportunities have changed. And yet if people come back and experience the same, have the experience of work, which is the same as it was, a decade ago and 2 decades ago. And I think that is where perhaps we're losing the plot. Yeah. And therefore being conscious about this so that you can constantly look at how we can reinvent and make the jobs more interesting. And it must be part of the sort of the responsibility of every single person who's a people manager to be able to be mindful of the fact that a good reason why you're not perhaps being able to retain your talent is because the nature or the experience of the work itself has too much of grunge, is not challenging, and is not enabling this person to actually use their potential. And then there's no great invitation to come every day to do, the same boring stuff. So I think the idea is, instead of saying, well, you know what, we'll play a cricket match on a Friday, or let's take you out for beer in the evening. And all that is so great for Connect, but it doesn't replace the grunge of the job. And I think that is one part we all need to collectively look at. I dare say, and I'm asking if your experience is the same, is that I find that a big challenge around reinventing the experience of work, and perhaps not leveraging some of these opportunities that you're talking about. So the environments change, but our experience inside organizations sometimes have not changed very dramatically. And the reason for that is because we do not have the kind of leadership mindsets, if you want to call them that, and I mean across the organization, to be able to take risk, for example. So if you're still stuck in the old paradigm of feel insecure on my job all the time, right? And I've not registered abundance, so I have not registered multiple opportunities that may really exist, or even the futility of pursuing something which is not giving me what I need to get in terms of my potential. And I have only so many years in a workplace. I just have only so many years to be able to have fun, to be able to use who I am, to be able to manifest my greatness. I just have just these many years. Now, I don't mean that you don't have years beyond it. That's the other part of what has changed so dramatically in our environment, is that it's a world of opportunities. And if you read Linda Grattan's 100-Year Life, yeah, you will allude to the fact that you have a good 25 years, if not 30, beyond retirement. And so, God bless everyone who's on this podcast, but you're going to live for a long time on the other side of your retirement. So what are we preparing ourselves for? Because this is this is a wonderfully transitioning world. And it is just so full of opportunities that Arvind's alluding to as well. And so what are we doing to be able to truly become these modern people, right, in modern workplaces, who are thinking modernly and are giving people opportunities while we are basically harnessing the opportunities of the environment? And I think a lot of work can become very exciting if we recognize the opportunities that exist in the environment that can be harnessed so differently.
Yes.
It's also the insecurity of not wanting to, and here I'm talking about growth mindset, fixed mindset, and I'm talking the fixed mindset of not wanting to make forays into places which we're not familiar with. They've not been our areas of proven expertise, and there's insecurity to want to move there and to be able to strategically direct the organization into arenas where you're using perhaps the technology or leveraging, new economy, exponential opportunities, because you're so afraid of failing. And I think that comes from the scarcity mindset. And let's not deny it, this is a society which is experiencing abundance for the first time.
Yes.
And I'm saying that all of that manifests in the workplace. And I think we kind of teach people in our teams to feel insecure about their jobs with the behaviors that we are demonstrating every day for them. And we think they're not visible, but they really are. And so, of course, we'll come back to growth mindset when we're talking, but I want to be able to not lose the opportunity right now to go back to your book.
Yes.
And so I'm interested to know about your book, and in the context of change and transformation, is there any stories that you can share with the audience today, Arvind?
So, Sujya, I wrote this book during pandemic. Of course, the entire book is based on my experience, which is backed by research and trends. This book is about what is happening in the world and how, as an organization, I need to respond to that changing world. It provides the framework for leadership, talent, and organizational design. So let me share, some of my experiments in the last 2 years. When I published this book in 2021, I said one is writing your experiences or looking at research and trend, and everything is past, right? It's based on your past experience. I said, as an author of a book, even as a practitioner, can I validate some of the models and ideas that has gone into the book? So let me share now real stories, not stories, just fiction. So I took up a responsibility to lead an organization as a CEO. So this was 2022, and I think right at the beginning of 2022, immediately after the COVID pandemic. And one of the reasons I did was, I said how vulnerable we are as humans, because COVID taught us. So, and I wanted to do something, particularly in the context of society and so on. So I took up this responsibility, and then I'm appointed as a CEO of our organization. I did the first town hall, and I did an announcement, and I declared that I'm here to serve you. I was talking about servant leadership. So, because there are two ways to look at it. Because I'm a CEO, because I have certain authority, I can rule over that organization. But I said, no, I'm here for you and your growth. And second, I said, I believe that if you as an individual grow, organization grows. Again, I was talking about the human potential. You know your potential, and individually, if you grow and you become, leaders, I don't have to worry about transformation and growth about the organization. Now, when I did this, I started practicing. Let me share, as a part of that you said very interesting things. It is very fascinating, when you shared these words, being aware, being mindful, having those growth mindset, being empathetic. So what I did, I said, let me hear out 80 to 90% of the time.
Okay.
Let me hear, because as a leader, we need to shift this, because I've seen that most of the time leaders don't hear, listen. When I started listening, everyone within the organization, I got some very interesting perspectives and deeper insights about individual, about the organization. Then I felt, or I can experience that the other person is feeling that I'm being heard. It's powerful, huh? Someone says that I'm being heard. I'm being valued for my own experience, my perspectives and views and so on. And that was the biggest first step in the managing culture and change. Then there were 3 colleagues as a part of organization who were under PIP, Performance Improvement Plan, because for whatever reason they did not do well in the past. So organization said, we will give you 3 months. If you improve, you will survive. Otherwise, now they were highly demotivated. Not know what will happen to their work and their job and so on. So what I said after this, having these deeper conversations, I said that I will make you get out of this PIP. I believe in you. I believe in your talent. They were all very talented. Some of them had come from abroad. So there is no doubt about the talent. What they needed was the direction. What they needed was some motivation. What they needed was some larger purpose for which they should really work for. And believe me, Sujaya, these 3 people went on to become top-notch performers within the organization, number 1. Number 2, so I call this a SaaS model of change and transformation. Like we call it software as a service. I call it SaaS. I said embrace the servant leadership. Then it is not enough, because I said that every individual, talented individual wants to work for a larger purpose, larger aspiration, larger goals. The second one is, how do you, I managed to bring that aspiration alive. So what I did, for example, is positively challenge them to think big. Think what is not possible, but you can commit for this. So one of my team members, it was time now, it's March, April, we have to define KPIs. So he came and he said, Arvind, these are the KPIs for my team. What do you think? Before entering into the system, I looked at it. Traditionally, and this is what is being practiced all over most of the time, what we do, we look at last year's performance. Can we improve 10%, 15%, and 20%? I just asked him, can we define these goals not from a last year, what we have achieved, but whatever we have achieved in the last 5 years? And that completely changed the game. There is a paradigm shift. The first time team member is saying that, I never thought so. So he went back, looked at what have we achieved in terms of numbers, impact, outcomes in the last 5 years. And he came back and he said, these are my KPIs. Very aspirational. Now he's comparing 5 years outcome versus next year's outcome. And for this, they had a trust, because I was there to serve them and create that environment. So they felt psychologically safe. I told them, even if you fail, it doesn't matter. It's okay. Okay, that risk. And if you succeed, we will transform. So that I call, embrace servant leadership, challenge positively, make them or give them aspirational goals. The next A is, I have given them challenging goals, but we need to give them access. Again, access to your time as a leader. And so I said,
that is such a big one, by the way. Yeah,
that's a big. Yes. So I said, it's open door. Anybody can come and discuss with me. So what you need knowledge, you need my network, you need any other thing externally. So you need technology, you need resources. You tell me what you need to make that happen, and this will be made available. Don't worry about the process system. How do we? That is my responsibility, and that is SAA. But that is not sufficient. I realized that even you embrace servant leadership, even you have aspirational goals, even give them an access, but the organization will not make the organizational processes, systems, culture does not allow them to make that happen, because things are very complex, or we have created complex organization. Even if I have to take a decision, it goes 10 levels. So it doesn't, even if I want an access to a certain thing, it is one team leader versus another team leader, another group. So what I said, simplify things. Break that entire bureaucratic structure. Worry. So everything that we are doing, it has to be simple. Simplify everything, whatever comes to our mind, systems, processes, decision-making, hiring, and to an extent, and you have to demonstrate that. So there was an intern who was working in another location. He came to the headquarters. I spotted his talent. He's exceptional talent, say for marketing. And Sujia, you may not believe, from an intern, he became a leader who was reporting to me in 6 months. He was leading a team. He built that entire team in a few months. And that's, what we called it, simplify everything. And if you do this, simple, you're authentic, people trust you, you give them aspirational goal, they are psychologically safe, they don't feel, threatened if they don't meet, and give them an access and simplify things. Believe me, transformation is bound to happen, and it happened. Now, what are the numbers? And these are the real numbers. So one hand, we had 18% of what we achieved in the last, say, 5 years. And in other hand, we had 1,100% increase. And in between, it was 50% to 120%. Can you believe this? And this just happened within 1 year.
Okay.
And if you take outliers, these are outliers. So what we achieved is 50% of what we have achieved in terms of whatever KPIs that we have defined of the past 1 year to 120%. That I call it a real transformation. The change is small. Actually, what change we did was culturally. The input to the change was more intangible. Output is transformational. And just now imagine, once someone believes that this can be done, the confidence, the conviction to look at the next big goals that they want to achieve. Now, if I look at what is the biggest impact of this transformation, of course, we achieved the numbers, and we did first to the organization, many things. In organization, we keep on first to the organization, first to the industry. But most important, Sujia, the most biggest impact was we broke the entire bureaucratic system. We worked as a tribe. And we had, say, one leader. For one leader, we created other 9 leaders. Imagine, traditionally, we had only set of leaders. We created 10 times the leaders. It doesn't matter. And in that, we said, can we create an organization? One is aspirational goal, organization, based on our roles. Not because, I'm a team lead, manager, deputy manager, general manager, vice president, president. It doesn't matter whether you're an intern or a CEO. We give just a simple, model, just illustration purpose. So somebody's evangelizing, somebody's enabling, somebody's catalyzing, somebody's talking about ecosystem. And each one is a most important pillar or a building block. And each one is critical to achieve that larger goal. And if you do this, transformation is bound to happen.
Right.
And so that's, I think, and something which I felt, not only the validation of the book or principles that I had given in the book, but also in reality, something like this happened. And therefore, I wrote an article about change, transformation, and unprecedented growth.
Right. No, I think this is an incredible story. And I think you're alluding to so many pieces there. You're alluding to the power of servant leadership, which is indeed the reason why you're the leader. You've just got it exactly the other way around. We basically we've understood and interpreted leadership exactly the opposite of what it ought to be, which is others are here to serve me and make me successful, vis-a-vis your point on I'm here to serve others, to enable them to manifest their potential and to enable them to contribute to the organization's agenda as I guide them and I support them and I coach them and the rest of that. To your point on aspirational goals, I think it's ever so important to be able to get people to actually, aspirational goals is the process of building strong self-belief for the organization itself. And so, and build optimism through the organization, which is such a powerful motivator for performance. And I think to your third A was around access. Yeah, I think it's such a powerful one, because I think many employees, and even through my working career, I would see people suffer, teams getting delayed in their performance, delayed in being able to find decisions, and especially because you've centered decisions with a few people, not having access to them can so significantly slow you down in terms of your own contribution and performance. So really, creating these power centers within the organization can just slow down the entire process of decision making, do exactly the opposite of what we need in these times, which is nimble organizations that are quick and agile for decision making, quick and agile for solving problems, and quick and agile to be able to harness the multiple opportunities that you were alluding to earlier. And then, of course, the last S, right? And this time around, your last S was around simplify. Yeah. So your last S was around simplifying. And I think that while you've used the word simplify, it just means so many things. because it's about being able to simplify what we've unnecessarily complicated inside organizations. We've basically defined organizations as problems to be solved. And I think as a result, most people come in and get entangled with the puzzle rather than being able to actually, find a way to be able to solve problems, find the ways of being able to interact with each other in a meaningful manner, and basically make working and the experience of work within organizations not so stressful. And you're right, the tall hierarchies are not part of a new age organization. The hierarchies serve their purpose. They do bring in the discipline. They're very important if there's a crisis. It's the way the work is divided. It's the way in which power may be divided. It brings in a more systematic way of working. But we've just overdone it with the tall hierarchies and the rest of that, just creating very complex, complicated structures where everyone's more interested in the power rather than the performance. And to your point, that with the kind of opportunities that are available and the opportunity to, in short periods of time, grow exponentially and the rest of that growing in a small period or a short window is not going to be possible with the tall hierarchies taking their own sweet time to be able to make decisions and slowing down everyone else and diluting everybody else's power. We don't have time on today's podcast, but maybe for another time to talk about the sort of unexpressed expectations you have of the hierarchy. And I think if you look at that, those expectations are not validated by research. For example, the presumption in the hierarchy of a hierarchy, and the taller the hierarchy, the worse this is going to be. But the presumption of a tall hierarchy is that the top of the organization is most apt, is most ready and most competent for strategic thinking and vision and for being able to innovate. So creative thinking, problem solving, strategic thinking, the presumption of the hierarchy is that it's best at the top of the organization, and there's nothing to validate that. So I want all the viewers to know, no research to show that just because you're on the top of the hierarchy, you're better at innovation or you're better at strategic thinking. And so, alluding to what he's saying around simplification and the rest, and the opportunities of being able to basically garner the effort and contribution. And these are the times where you harness the contribution of every single opportunity you have across the organization by bringing in everyone's tacit knowledge and converting that into performance. And I think that's how you pack a powerful punch in a short window to be able to do more. So so I think the simplification point is well taken also in terms of the complicated processes and systems that we've created. And I think the point I want to leave the audience on as far as simplification is concerned is to be able to also ask ourselves that, which paradigms have we created inside the organization, which have become so compelling, and they've been nice places to hide behind. And I'm going to call out some of them, which is, for example, an over usage of and an overemphasis on matters to do with risk. Right. And so suddenly everything is about risk and everything is about something that you can't do. And we're just finding all the ways to be able to tell people why they can't do this, why they can't question that, why they can't touch this. And 9 out of 10 times, this is just exaggerated. It's very significantly exaggerated. This can be simplified for more people to be able to contribute in a creative manner and to be able to innovate, which are indeed the requirements of remaining differentiated, at these times. Simplification is also about making work or making certain decisions just the domain of a few.
Yes.
So it's a process of excluding people really in an organization. And I think that is, again, an area to be able to focus on. And I think the job of leadership with their experience and the the kind of perspectives that they bring in, the mature perspectives they bring in, is to constantly simplify the organization so more people find it easier to be able to contribute. So I think the SAS formula is beautiful. I really love it. And I'm hoping most people are taking this back and, are able to integrate some of this into their rhythm of work inside their own organizations. Arvind, please come in.
It's so fascinating to have this kind of a conversation, Sujaya, because the way you are bringing your perspective and summarizing, it reinforces many things and makes the podcast so engaging and insightful. So, and we wanted to do this in my first town hall. I had said that, can we do this joyfully? You use the word stress.
Yeah.
So, and I'll just give, someone was getting stressed.
Yeah.
And he just entered because I had an open door policy. So he entered and he just said, Arvind, I'm not enjoying my work. I said, why? Look, I have this responsibility, and mostly my traits or personality traits are more extrovert or externally focused, but currently I'm just doing documentation and so on. I said, let's meet tomorrow. And he came back tomorrow and we did this plain sheet. And I said, you have these strengths. Do you agree? Yes. And these are the potential opportunities within the organization. Which one you want to pick? He said, this is the one I want to pick. And believe me, he was one of the phenomenal talent I could find. someone came and he said, Arvind, just before I was joining, he said, I had just joined. He says, Arvind, I want to leave. I said, why? Why you want to leave? Then he says, things are not going the way I anticipated before joining. Then I asked, what do you want to do in life? What is your aspiration? He said, I want to become an investor. Then I said, if you want to become an investor, a startup investor, can you take up a responsibility to create, say, 100 startups, nurture them, get them the investment, and I will give you 3 years and I will support you. And believe me, he stayed. And he did what I was calling something, he became an outlier. So that's the transformation that can happen without having stress.
So important. I mean, somehow there are two paradigms that are sort of, missing a lot of us. And I'm wondering whether the other part of the human side of enterprise that we're bringing back is to bring back both of these that one of them you're alluding to, which is why should work be a stressful process? Yeah, whatever it is, whether you're dealing with challenges, problems, whatever it is, it's all about perspective building, and it's about people around you helping you with that perspective building so that you're not so bogged down and you're not so stressed, and you're not feeling so terrible about what it is that you're doing every day. And to also have this space, this safe space to come and say, I'm not enjoying this and I'm wondering whether my personality is suited for the kind of work, or I expected this to be something different and it's turned out to be something different. Like, why can't we have these conversations openly and try to find solutions together? So organizations are not problems to be solved. Organizations are not puzzles. Organizations are not places where you naturally are going to feel stress, which is what a lot of people just sort of submit to, or submit themselves to, that the experience is going to be stressful. And I think the invitation here is, how can we create organizations which are not delusionally full of joy, but full of joy because we have the wisdom to create joy within organizations. And I think the other one, which I'm really waiting to see, even as I have 500,000 professionals to touch through my vision board, is how do we bring back love to work? I mean, I remember, my first job, and I remember going with a skip in my step to work. Yeah, I was so excited about being able to go to work. And I dare say, through my entire career of 33 years, and now I run my own company, I look forward to every single day. And not every single day is great from whatever are the dimensions of being able to talk about whether I've had a great day today or I haven't had a great day today. And I think it just comes from the way we've defined our relationship with work. And I think through the podcast, I want to invite people that part of being the new age organization is, can we not imagine that stress is a natural outcome of work, and that, you kind of, and I'm not saying to be in denial of people who are experiencing stress, but to instead create organizations that manifest joy. And, we're not being delusional when we're saying this. We're talking about being led with wisdom so that more people experience the joy that we're talking about. And why should work be a drudgery? Why should it be a place where we feel unhappy? Why should it be a place we don't want to come to, if we drag our feet there every day? Why should we be there under the duress of experiencing financial insecurity and the rest of that, or any other compulsion because of which we're at work? So I think these are areas there where a lot of work still needs to get done. And I'm disappointed with how many people don't enjoy their workplace. And I think that is our big opportunity, which is, how do we get people to really enjoy work and enjoy the workplace?
So I did another experiment. I think after this, I will not tell more stories.
No, go ahead. I think they're lovely stories. Go ahead.
So as an organization, we decided to run mini MBA program because the middle management, and we wanted to prepare middle management for future roles. And being author, being such a successful, whatever you call, so I was invited to do the first session, this mini MBA, inaugural session of mini MBA, because we wanted to start on a very big, something positive, inspiring note. And I started thinking on what topic I should do the session. And I went on thinking I can do creativity, innovation, change, all kinds of things. Then, Sujay, I was on a flight to Delhi, retreat. And So I was with my wife and she said, it's a 2 hour flight. What do you want to do? Do you want to watch some movie or something? I said, no, I'm thinking.
Okay.
I need to think.
Yeah.
By the time I landed in Delhi, I had figured out what is that session I need to take, and that will change fundamentally individuals and organization. What was the topic? So I discovered that where is this challenge? The challenge is the way we think. This session, how to think. And if we know the principles of thinking and what makes someone so joyful, conscious, and such a powerful impact versus others who have immense talent, but just because they don't know.
Oh yeah.
But that's why your work on mindfulness or EQ is fundamentally so important to the individuals and organization. If we change our thinking, believe me, we will work so joyfully and contribute to the organization, to the society, brings meaning and brings joy to purpose. So fundamentally, we have to tackle at that level. And for that, we need what you said is conscious leader. Of course, servant leader brings some level of consciousness. We need a conscious leader. And why conscious leader is important, why consciousness is important is, at least I see that the race has begun. Like there's the intelligent machines. And the first time I'm experiencing that there is a race between these intelligent machines and humans and humanity. And we as humans need to really differentiate and work or collaborate or partner or whatever we want or want to be relevant. I think the one to take is consciousness.
Right. So well said. And I think, we could easily have, a 3-hour podcast with someone like Arvind, but it's just been such a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for sharing the SaaS model with everyone on this call. And I'm going to ask you all to watch this place for more, because I'm sure that we're going to talk about change and transformation another time with Arvind. I invite you all to be able to access his book if you'd like it for continuing reference. And it's just been delightful being in touch with you. Signing off. Thank you for being part of the Ideas Project. And thank you, Arvind, for your time today and for so delightfully sharing such gems of wisdom with everyone here today. So thank you for that.